Joining us for more, Jurgen Klinsmann and Don Hutchison. Jurgen, I'll start with you. Every time we evaluate Spurs of late, I feel like the first question is, were Spurs bad or was their opponent good? How do you break it down today?
Well, you know me, I try to keep everything positive when it's about Spurs, but I have to be honest. Today it's really difficult, especially the first 45 minutes, the first half, Chelsea completely outplayed Spurs. And then they got the lead with the penalty kick from Jorginho, well-deserved lead. Spurs never created anything in the first 45 minutes. I mean, their front line with Son, with Vinicius, Bergwijn was pretty much not on the field. And then it got a little bit more even in the second half. I think Chelsea should have been a little bit more clinical, more decisive. They could have scored a second or a third one. They didn't do that, and that brought Spurs the last couple of minutes of the game back in the game, and they almost scored with Vinicius. He almost had the equalizing header. Then it would have been 1-1, and everybody would have asked, well, it's not so bad. But I think it was a clearly well-deserved Chelsea win. Obviously, that takes Spurs now far away from the top spot where Man City sits. I think it's now 14 points or something, which makes a lot of Spurs fans really unhappy today. But compliments to Chelsea.
Don, Spurs fans undoubtedly unhappy, but also watching this game, they just must be so frustrated.
Yeah, it was a hard watch, Sebi. I mean, Jose tried to waffle after the Brighton game by saying his team dug in the second half and they showed a bit of spirit and a little bit of fight. I didn't see any spirit and fight in the first half. Okay, I thought the last 15 Tottenham had a go, but that was more in desperation. I thought the tactics from Jose was off. Thomas Tuchel played three at the back and Reece James had too much space. Him and Hudson-Odoi had Ben Davies in 2v1s too many times. Son not tracking back. And I think it was only Chelsea taking their foot off the gas in the first half. They could have been out of sight. They could have been 2 or 3 if they really wanted to, but they thought, well, there's no pressure on us. There's no real drama. We're winning 1-0. Life is cosy. We'll just keep hold of the ball. And when you do that in the Premier League and you win them 1-0, anyone can get back into a game, but not great if you're a Spurs fan watching that.
Jurgen, Jose Mourinho must be doing this for a reason. Is it because Spurs players aren't good enough to go toe-to-toe with Chelsea or because he doesn't have faith in them? I mean, you can look at the team today, and without Harry Kane, I do question if they're good enough to play toe-to-toe with the Chelsea.
Well, it's a good question. I mean, obviously, from a fan perspective, you wonder, why Gareth Bale, is not coming on. What about Dele Alli now, since he didn't get a move away now in the transfer window? You're wondering, who can substitute, obviously, Harry Kane for these couple of occasions. But definitely, when you play at home, you want to see a Spurs side going forward. You want to see a Spurs side, put high pressure on, create chances, create excitement, because Spurs football has always been about excitement, about creating chances and entertaining the fans, and that was not the case obviously today. So it's difficult to have arguments then, and I mean, if it wasn't for the fact that Chelsea didn't use their opportunities, then it's also in the second half they had a couple of counter breaks. They could have finished it off with a second and third goal. It could be a much more worse result, than it at the end of the day it was with a 1-0.
But Don, I mean, to play devil's advocate here, Mourinho's game plan almost works to perfection, doesn't it? I mean, they're in the match until the end. If it is Harry Kane instead of Vinicius there, you take Spurs to walk away with a point.
No, I can't say it would have worked to perfection. Even if Spurs had scored late on, that would have been Chelsea kicking themselves. I understand if they got a point out of the game, it looks good. But when you watch the balance of play and you watch it unfold from minute one, Spurs were way off. I mean, I was watching Højbjerg, and Højbjerg is not the best footballer in the world. But what he is, he's aggressive. He gets in people's faces. He stops people playing. He wins a lot of balls back in midfield, and then he feeds the front men and the wide men. He almost played like a quarterback tonight. He's not as good as a footballer as Jorginho. So I was questioning why he was so deep trying to start off all the moves. And him and Sissoko in midfield, they're not the greatest pairing in the world. But what you ask from them two, if you're Jose, you ask them to get tight to Jorginho, you get them tight to Kovacic, and you stop them two from playing. They almost just played like a basketball game, Tottenham. Højbjerg and Sissoko sat off Chelsea's two, and they said, well, when you get the ball, you can pick a pass. When we get the ball, we'll try and play, but then they're not as good as them two. So why wouldn't Tottenham's midfield two just go toe-to-toe and go really stand on Kovacic and Jorginho and stop them from playing? Then you can build from there, and you've got a bit of a base, and you can press, and you can make the game ugly, but it was just too easy from Chelsea's point of view.
Let's give Chelsea some credit then. Let's talk about the team that actually won this match. Thomas Tuchel, Jurgen in charge for 8 days. Maybe I'm exaggerating, but are we already starting to see some of that impact seep in? And if so, how much credit does he deserve for not just doing it, but doing it quickly?
Well, he deserves definitely credit. I mean, you get this win away from home, and it's not easy jumping in the middle of the season and get to know everybody. Put a little bit your hands on things. So it will take a little bit of time, but you could see the team was very, very motivated. It was a great movement off the ball all over the field from the Chelsea players. So they try to really connect well. I thought the front line, Mason Mount played a very, very good game. Timo Werner tried to be all over the place. Was a bit unlucky. He could have actually finished with a nice opportunity there. So they were looking for each other. Even the fact that Thiago needed to leave the field because of injury didn't kind of interfere with their rhythm. So it seems to start well for Thomas Tuchel, and obviously they understand the fact that they badly need points, like Spurs as well, in order to get into the top four there, because that's the ultimate. I mean, that's the minimum of the goal that these teams have, is to get into the Champions League spot. So no, gotta give him credit.
Don, Chelsea maybe not clinical today. Anything else to complain about in their performance?
No, I thought they played well. Sabia really did. 3 clean sheets for Thomas Tuchel, so ideal start. The Wolves game, when he'd only been through the door for 48 hours, was a little bit difficult to try and judge. It was a boring game, 0-0, but the last 2 games have been good. They could have scored more, as Jurgen said. It was just that final ball when Kovacic raced through and he had a little ball to Mason Mount, whose right-hand side. He could have slipped him in. But trying to get used to the players and getting to know the players and getting to know his best system and his best individuals. He's brought people like Marcus Alonso back, who was nowhere near the first team. He's bringing players back into the squad and certainly the starting 11, so he's got a good squad to choose from. And you have to say, a few days into his reign, 3 clean sheets, he's done a great job.
At the post-match, we heard Jose Mourinho kind of summing up the match, and he said this basically just comes down to a penalty, and that's the only difference in this game. Don, what is Eric Dyer thinking when he's on the ground there scrambling to, I don't know, try to do what against Timo Werner?
Yeah, the problem is, Seb, he's not thinking, because he must have knew that Timo Werner was around him, and as Jose in his interview was saying, and he was frustrated because he was sort of alluding to that it was just a nothing penalty. But I think what Jose was saying, it was a penalty, but he was saying it was a nothing penalty from Eric Dyer to give away. It wasn't like Timo Werner was bearing down on goal and he was just about to pull the trigger and it was a tap-in finish. He was, on the angle, from distance. There was no need to give the penalty away. He was on the floor, so I loosely sort of stay on your feet, but you know what I mean. Just don't make a tackle and hope that you've got a covering defender that's going to get you out of trouble. And Jose will look back at that, and as Jose does, he tries to spin 1 or 2 things. His team got completely outplayed in the first half, but he'll try and spin it, and he'll just say it's just a penalty. It was more than that, and then he'll say, well, Vinicius could have scored at the end, and we could have got something out of the game. So somehow Jose tries to drag some sort of positives out of a bad performance. He's done exactly the same against Brighton last week, and he's done it again tonight.
Jurgen, isn't that just the problem? Like, we hear Jose Mourinho after these games, and he always focuses on the individual mistakes, but that gives him a pass. Then we never discuss what Jose Mourinho is doing tactically.
Well, obviously, he's magical in finding explanations and analyzing things, and he's not wrong either. Because obviously, they had a chance in the last 2 minutes. Could have scored. It would have finished and possibly 1-1. But the biggest task now for Jose really is how to get this team up in the table of the league. How to get this team in the Final Four, because Tottenham fans, not only that they dreamed about, obviously, the championship in the beginning of the season or the first couple of months, the must-to-do is to get into Champions League again. And right now they are far away from the Champions League spots. So you got to create a certain positive vibe there within your squad. You got to get everybody back on track, and you have to figure out how to score goals and how to get forward, and how to obviously get the players behind you, because if you look at the body language of Gareth Bale there on the sideline, or Dele Alli not coming in at all, those are big players, and you need to handle them. You need to keep them basically with you. And sooner or later, hopefully, they can come in and make a difference. But that was not today, unfortunately, the case.
Don, I feel like we've kind of seen this movie before. The team is fading. Mourinho's talking about everything else but the football on the pitch. Is the magic gone?
I don't think the magic's gone. It's certainly fading, Sebi. I don't think he's got the squad to try and get anywhere near the title, even though they were sitting top of the league at one point. But many teams have sat top of the league this season. He's trying to work his magic. He's trying to work something that I just don't see is going to happen for him. I think the biggest worry, I think, for Tottenham fans is then what happens at the end of the season. If this is a season where they've won no trophies, I wonder what Son does. I wonder what Harry Kane does. I wonder if they really think about, starting to win some serious trophies. So I think the magic's still in Jose. Just how on earth he's going to try and get the magic into this Tottenham side, because at the minute they are way off. If you think of where Man City are, and I know Guardiola's been there a few years and he spent a lot of money, but Tottenham are a million miles away from where City are.
Don, we know what he's not going to do. He's not going to play Gareth Bale, and he's not going to play Dele Alli, as Jurgen mentioned. Why? Why still? Clearly, this team's down 1 goal again. They need goals, and he's not using either of these two guys.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I've got no idea. I mean, what I would say is from a player's point of view, I think, Dele Alli needs to do a lot more. I think he needs to come in for training early. He needs to work hard. He needs to convince Jose. Sometimes, it's not always the manager's fault. Players have to look at themselves. With Dele Alli, and Jose called him a terrible trainer. When Jose done that documentary, he said to Dele Alli, "You're a terrible trainer." Now, if someone said that about me, I would be absolutely furious. Not at the manager. I'd be furious at myself. And I'd look at myself in the mirror and think, does Jose Mourinho think I'm a terrible trainer? I'm going to prove him wrong. I'm going to come in early. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to be the last one away. And when I get game time, I'm going to convince the manager that I'm not a terrible trainer and I'm a good professional and I'm worthy of place in this squad. I don't think Dele Alli's done that. Gareth Bale is just a real strange scenario that I think Daniel Levy's more or less said to Jose, "Here, Jose, there's Gareth Bale," and Jose's gone, "No thanks," doesn't fancy him, whether he's fit or not. But surely, even in the last 10 minutes of a game, you might just throw Gareth Bale on. You might just try and get him on. You might have a free kick. You might have a moment of magic. Surely, Gareth Bale at the moment is not completely finished.
Don, has Bale done anything so far that you've seen that makes you think he could be that difference maker?
No, I haven't, to be honest. I mean, you can say just Wickham, but he played quite well in the Wickham game. But that doesn't have any stand-ins for what you do in the Premier League. So again, you've got to work hard. You've got, me and Jurgen have been pros. We all go through dips in our career, and we all have injuries, and we've all bounced back when you've been really low. And only Gareth Bale knows how fit he is, Sebi. I think that's the problem. We're trying to judge Gareth Bale on where he was 4 or 5 years ago. Now, he's not played at Real Madrid for an awful long time. So his injury record suggests that he's not match fit, and he's probably carrying 1 or 2 knocks, and he probably hasn't got the confidence to go high speed running as he used to do. So he's probably playing at something like 85, 90%. You cannot do that in the Premier League. You will not get Premier League starts under Jose Mourinho if you're not 100% fit. He plays people like Sissoko and he plays people like Højbjerg because he knows you'll go to the well and they'll blood, sweat and tears. That's what Jose wants. I'm not sure Dele Alli and I'm not sure Gareth Bale have got that in them.
Jurgen, Don mentions something interesting there. We know Spurs are obsessed with a trophy. Let's say they go on and win a League Cup under Mourinho. If you're a player like Kane, if you're a player like Son, is that enough to keep you around playing this way?
No, it's not enough. Obviously, a trophy is a trophy, and it's something wonderful for everyone. But the League Cup is not the trophy that you're really aiming for. You want to win the championship, or you want to win the Champions League. FA Cup obviously is very prestigious in England, but I think Don made a very, very good point. It's down to the players as well. We always discuss Jose, what he's doing here, what he's doing there, but at the end of the day, it's the hunger and the drive of the players that create something special. And now they're in a difficult situation. They're far away from spot number 1 in the league. And everybody is looking for a reaction. So it is really now down to the players to prove the point, to be maybe a little bit more verbal, going out, being just clear that that they are not happy about themselves, and to prove that on the training pitch with the coaching staff, with everyone else. So they badly need a reaction now, because otherwise this could turn into a very, very negative time period for Spurs.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.